So, I mean, how many of you here have heard of Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and Larry Page? You can just raise your hands. Yeah. So quite obviously, these are household names, and I'm not surprised to see everyone's hands go up. Yeah. How many of you have heard of William McKnight, Ken Katargi, and Paul Burchett? Okay. So the look of unfamiliarity on all your faces makes this talk relevant. Great. So the first group of people who I, called out are clearly those we call entrepreneurs. They're definitely a very celebrated lot. There are a lot of stories about how they've marched into risk, how they've converted their ideas into action. There's a lot of celebration of entrepreneurs. But sort of in the, in the stories of these enterprises and these entrepreneurs as their creators, we tend to neglect a leading character, who we call the intrapreneur. And as the slide suggests, the intrapreneurs are those who think and act like entrepreneurs, but from within existing organizations. The second category of people who I called out are some very popular intrapreneurs. I'm sorry, they're not popular. Their products and their innovations are popular, but nobody really knows who they are. For example, Paul Burchett on the previous slide is the man behind Gmail. Gmail is something that we're using almost every day. We know Larry Page, but we don't know Paul Burchett. That's because Paul was an entrepreneur. He worked at Google, and because of Google's policy, they have a 20% time policy where they allow employees to take 1 day of the week to dedicate towards innovation and creativity. He used that time to eventually come up with Gmail. Similarly, Ken Katargi is a man behind the Sony PlayStation, but nobody really knows of him. And same with William McKnight. He actually started his career as an ordinary bookkeeper at 3M. And then finally, because of his entrepreneur skills and his sort of passion to really see the enterprise grow, he was able to, be promoted to the cost accountant, and slowly and gradually he retired as the chairman of the enterprise. So, the idea that we're trying to sort of drive is that we're not celebrating our entrepreneurs. And that actually brings me to the context of who we are and who Idex is, and how we're trying to address this situation. So Idex, our mission is to create the next wave of social entrepreneurs who will lead, support, and advance the work of socially focused enterprises around the world. So our idea is to build capacities of young professionals who want to work in the social sector in the capacity of an entrepreneur. We strongly believe that even for those people who want to work in the social sector and advance and lead those enterprises or lead initiatives, they require professional training. They require their capacities to be built. They require a certain level of skills development. That's really what we do. How we do it is we run a fellowship. So we have people who apply to this fellowship from across the world, across the globe. And there are people who come from mainstream sectors as well. So we have accountants, we have people from finance, we have people who worked with Boston Consulting, we have designers, we have people who worked in medicine, who want to transfer their skills to be used in the social space. And when they go through this fellowship experience, we're able to build their, we're able to, next. Yeah. We're able to help them build their skills through like a curriculum and other experiences which I'll get into. Help them develop a professional portfolio, which is a tangible evidence of their marketable skills, so that tomorrow if they go to an employer, they're able to show something tangible. And through relationship building, relationships with their peers, relationship with their mentors. So that's really the crux of what we try to do. And for us, when our sort of theme is to promote entrepreneurs. And we strongly believe that there are certain characteristics that we think are extremely important for one to be an entrepreneur. You know, I came across a TED talk where this lady spoke about silver spoons and scrappers. She described silver spoons as those who went to Ivy League universities, you know, got a fantastic job, flawless resume. And then on the other hand, there were scrappers. I mean, she called them scrappers. As those people who had an ordinary schooling, they probably switched several odd jobs before they finally landed up with a good one. And they didn't really have anything, you know, sort of outstanding in their resumes. At Idex, we actually don't care. For us, we don't care whether you're a silver spoon or a scrapper. You know, when we recruit a fellow, for us it's very important that they exhibit a few of these qualities. Someone who's able to embrace ambiguity head on, seek opportunities to learn and share their experiences with others. Somebody who's willing and able to quickly adapt and work in a resource-constrained environment, especially if they want to work in the social sector. Somebody who is learning from their professional success, but also from their professional failures. Somebody who is open to self-reflection, and also somebody who has a sense of humor. I mean, you know, you need to sort of, at the end of the day, just have a laugh, right? So these are some of the skills that we look for, or at least we look for someone who is willing and open to gain these skills over the period of 6 months that we hold this. And why we feel this is important in the social sector is because most social enterprises are resource constrained. Most of them do require people to have a very high level of empathy. They do require one to be flexible because projects change all the time, your donors change, requirements change. We do require people who work in diverse settings. So that's, you know, these are some of the things that we look out for. So, you know, the idea of IDEX is we have fellows from every part of the globe. We have people who have come from diverse expertise. And we have people who have diverse areas of interest. So some want to work in health, some want to work in education, gender, energy, environment. But at the end of the day, even though we have a global reach, we have a shared value of social change. Coming to that, another sort of myth that we try to break is that social change doesn't always have to be through large-scale social movements or through NGOs. We can also bring about social change through social enterprise, which are profitable enterprises that serve the bottom of the pyramid. So, you know, these are some of the sort of you know, the theme of what IDEX is and what we're trying to do. I mean, we can get into this. Are we going to have a session or like a conversation post this? Okay. So actually, I've sort of come to the end of this because I don't know how much in depth I'm supposed to go, but we could discuss more about the model if anyone has questions about that, or more about, yeah, sorry.
So I'm a little bit confused about the aim of IDEX is to create a producer-based organizations, or?
So the aim of IDEX is to build capacities of young professionals to become social entrepreneurs, to become people who will work within existing enterprises. Not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, right? So how do you support those people who want to become entrepreneurs, who want to drive change from within an existing organization?
And what do you exactly mean by social enterprise?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Where do we create a line
between social enterprise and a regular enterprise, or social enterprise and non-profit?
Social enterprise and like NGOs or producer-owned enterprises like Amul.
Yeah. So NGOs are not making profit, right? They either have a donor or they've got grant funding. Social enterprises are selling a product which may serve the bottom of the pyramid, and they're making profits out of that, right? So they are providing a product or a technology which is helping. Microfinance is the most popular form of social enterprise, where you're providing a service, you're making profits, but that service is also very crucial to the bottom of the pyramid. I mean, of course, there's a lot of debate about if microfinance is actually good or not. But even like, you look at these technologies, like there's an organization called BEMPU that's making these infant resuscitators. There's another organization called Embrace, which is making incubators. All these are things, all these technologies can be used in the rural areas where there's no electricity, where there's no power. So that product is being charged. It's not being given for free because BEMPU has not got grant funding. They are selling the product to people and making profit out of it.
So basically, it's all about innovative products which can be sold in the market at the cheaper prices than the competition, and
yeah, but
like
this
Tata
is,
Swatch. I'm seeing is as Tata Swatch, the filter which is being sold at price of 600, while the other competitions are at the rate of 2,000, 2,500.
yes,
So, but
you're serving a certain market. So you're serving the bottom of the pyramid who would not otherwise have access to the other products because of economic reasons or access reasons.
If Tata Swatch is a social product, does it make Tata Group a social enterprise? Probably not. So how do you then make such distinctions?
So, the line between social enterprises, for-profit organizations, NGOs is actually getting much, much dimmer. Because now a lot of the mainstream organizations like Tata Reliance are starting foundations, right? So that sort of line is getting a lot less sort of clearer. And so with us, we also tell people that we don't only partner with social enterprises. We partner with any organization that is serving a social mission. The model in which they operate could be for profit. So they could be a Reliance or a Tata. It could be a social enterprise like the BEMPU example. It could even be a non-profit. So the kind of partners where we have fellows placed are not traditional social enterprises. And to be honest, I think they don't even exist anymore. Yeah. I think there's nothing like antisocial. So, in fact, no, that's a really good question because there's some people who've asked us this question. I might shoot a question back at you actually to be safe. That, why is, for example, any of these startups, like Grofers, for instance, Grofers or Swiggy or like any of these enterprises that are actually serving a need. They're serving a need because people they don't have time to go to the grocery, right? So why are these not social enterprises, right? That's also a question because as long as you're serving a need, you could be a social enterprise. But I think in my head, and I could be wrong, I mean, everyone has a different opinion. It is something that should be accessible to the bottom of the pyramid. Right? So regular startups are not social enterprise. Doesn't mean they're antisocial. I mean, I don't know if
the parameters. Like, let's say, this might be a dumb example, so please go with me. Alright. So if I say, for instance, BD is also available for bottom of the pyramid. So
Yeah.
can I call it a social enterprise? The guy who's manufacturing BDs. So what are the parameters which can sort of
Yeah, I think that's a good question because the context is really important. Like BDs is not good for health.
Yeah, that's
so at the end of the day, if
I'm
you're promoting
I'm
something,
asking you to like.
Yeah, so I
pin
think
down
that
parameters.
the three pillars of sustainability: economic, social, and political or cultural. I think if you're able to, because this may be economically sustainable, a BD, but socially and it's not, right? Because at the end of the day,
That's
it's
the point I
not
was
leading to good health. So I think you have to look at it in a more holistic way before you define. And I don't think there's really a clear definition of social enterprise.
No, yeah. So it's a like irony in itself, like a enterprise which is earning profits while serving the bottom of the pyramid. So
I just felt like you'd asked that question in 3 different ways, all hoping for
Yeah,
one
like-
answer. So you have to understand that there's a certain level of motivation for us to live a certain lifestyle. Now, I'll give you my example, which I was talking to, and I promised I wouldn't share it, but I will now. So I spent the greater part of a year sort of soul searching and trying to find my calling in life, which I thought was for me to float my own company and to get into something where I call the shots and basically envisioning myself as an entrepreneur. I was very heady. I felt like I had the resources, but I really didn't think it through because I felt like I was reading all about how you have an entrepreneur making it every day. I felt that was my trajectory. Why did I have any cause to think otherwise? Except that reality hit, and I realized that I didn't have enough resources to make it sustainable. Now that's the key. I had to take a step back, and that's when I got into Idex, ironically enough. And wait, so the idea is now, if you look at I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it's wrong as a concept to make profits in the social sector.
I'm thinking about the Robin Hood approach of doing things, like taking money from the heavy pockets and...
But that's not it, right? That's not it. We're creating... Yeah, the idea is to make it a sustainable business model, because what I'm hoping for in the long term shouldn't be driven down or made any less important by the fact that I don't have money coming in. So how do I make myself sustainable to keep my talent here? Because I have Bhavna as a resource, I'm a resource, we have a couple of other resources that all make IDEX what it is. And without these, without us serving ourselves and making sure that we're creating an angle where it's serving a purpose but also sustainable as a business for us. Business is business at the end of the day. But
you know, and another thing, in a social enterprise, the customer is more picky about the product because he's paying for it. So you will definitely try and make sure that your quality is good, because they have paid for it. When something comes for free, if Bamboo were to distribute infant resuscitators for free, I think they wouldn't be so particular about quality as much as when they have to sell it. So there is, you know, that sort of trade-off there.
I think all this on. Okay. So another thing, for example, Selco. You know, Harish Hande says this very interesting thing. He says, I don't want to. He serves exclusively the lower strata of society, rural Selco. Selco basically makes solar panels for rural and urban areas. But he's very clear about it. He says, I'm not doing a not-for-profit because my customer base is not a charity case. I'm not doing charity. I am providing a service to them because the service of electricity that they get, if they use kerosene, they pay a lot more per unit of energy than we in the cities do. So the poorest people are paying a lot more. So he says, I'm going to provide a service for them which is going to make their fuel costs less expensive, and they are my customers. And the deal there is that if he treats them as customers, if it's a paid service, if his profit depends on them, he's going to keep innovating about it, right? So all the things we talk about, innovation, competition, comes into play. So why should we treat people as a charity case? That's not capacity building, right? So yeah, that's also a way of social, and another thing is a social enterprise may be serving the bottom of the pyramid, or it could also be building capacity. Like Neelam was talking in the morning, Jaipur clothes are extremely expensive. But at the same time, they create a certain kind of environment which allows capacity, or it allows livelihoods, which is also a social enterprise. So yeah, but the lines are really fuzzy.
Can you give a practical example, like where you have put in actual product or something like that? So,
Okay, so I'll just explain what we do again.
nee, that
So,
I
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
The concept is understood. The product.
You want to understand what we do? Okay, I can understand it's a little... Okay, so, where do I start from? Anyway, so what we do is, so did you understand what entrepreneurs? You understood that, right? So an entrepreneur who works in the social sector is what we call social entrepreneur. That means somebody like me who goes and works in a Bamboo, for example. A Bamboo is an enterprise, right? So I will be called a social entrepreneur. What we do at IDEX Accelerator is that we help develop the capacities, we train, we support people to become social entrepreneurs. Because even to be a social entrepreneur, you need to go through a professional development experience. Yeah, you understood? Okay, so we have a curriculum, we have the fellow, when they come in for the fellowship, they go through 6 months of on-the-ground, hands-on training. So they get partnered with a social enterprise. So they will be working with BEMPU for 6 months. Plus, we will be having our workshops, we will be having our training, our mentoring, all this hack sessions and things like that. That will help them develop those qualities that are required to be an entrepreneur. Yeah, so along with your job at BEMPU, you will also be getting trained to be a social entrepreneur, because we feel that even to be an entrepreneur, you need to go through an experience. You need to develop skills like curiosity, flexibility. These are things that we actually mention as qualities, but they are actually skills for us. So that's.
Maybe I'm, working at Microsoft as a, coder or a designer. So it's not a social enterprise as a whole, Microsoft. So am I, sort of eligible as a fellow for your accelerator program or something?
So like I said, we actually get most people who are like you for this fellowship. But then you must be wanting to transition to the social sector. You're working in Microsoft, but you may want to start working with a social enterprise like BEMP. I'm giving BEMPO because I guess everyone would be familiar with them by now, or Selco. So you may want, as long as you have the desire to transfer your skills to the social sector, that's when you should come to this fellowship. But if you want to continue working with Microsoft, then I guess this fellowship doesn't make sense. Because this fellowship is trying to increase the human capital in the social sector.